the stress level? No, don't do it. Get a grip. This stupid video I just showed you. I almost stroked out and died over it. You're watching a different show. You donkey. You ain't a captain of nothing but a sinking ship. Don't do this to me, Harry. The Ohio State. It's Ohio State. What do you mean, the? 312-988-15.
Hello?
You tell Johnny all you've heard and seen. Sometimes it's good to just yell about football. Yeah, that's right. Ooh, baby, there's a lot going on in Notre Dame land. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much of it is good, how much of it is bad, and how much of it I haven't made my mind up yet. But there is a lot going on in Notre Dame land. And my guess is it's a little bit of everything. Like, there's a little bit of bad news, some decent news. Like, I don't know what to make of it. But Monday was a big day in Notre Dame land. A lot of news broke, and we need to go over it all. You know, I have not been live with you guys since all that news broke Monday. And I know how this fan base is. So I'm guessing there's not going to be a lot of agreement, and there's going to be, I know how this is going to go. With a lot of this, there's going to be a bunch of you that are going super negative, all on the downside. Then there's going to be some people on the high side, and then there's going to be some people wait and see kind of in the middle. And so I just think, again, there's a lot of nuance here, and there's a lot of things we got to sort through and some tough realities to be had. And it just, we're in a really weird spot. Excuse me, still struggling a little bit. I feel much better than a week ago, but I'm still not 100%. There's just a lot going on in Notre Dame land, and the feel and the vibe is off, and it's just awkward, and it's not hitting me right. And there's just a lot going on, man. There's just a lot going on. So let's get into it. Thank you for being here. I'll go over a couple notes and a couple chats, and then let's see what we got. We got a decent amount of callers here. We'll get Dr. John in early, do his Wednesday morning routine, that whole thing. We'll get it going. Doc John, it's good to see you. And so let's get into this. I don't want to waste any time because there is a lot of news, and I want to see where your guys' levels are with where all this different stuff is at. So let's get into it. As always, thanks for being here. You can find the program on YouTube. Do it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps Johnny out as well. Twitter, search bar Always Irish, or at Always Irishing. Emails, alwaysirishnd@gmail.com. Audio only, anywhere you want it. You can get it. If you don't want to see my face, no one in the world's going to blame you for that if you don't want to see my face. How do you think I feel every day looking at myself? The call-in lines, 312-988-15, dialed up. Tell Uncle Johnny all the things you've heard and seen. How about patreon.com/alwaysirish? Former captain, leading tackler Mike Goolsby, Jared Clark. They're breaking it down behind a paywall there. I set these guys up on the film, and they go for hours. I literally set them up with everything we need, and those guys go for hours, and they just keep talking about the film and breaking it down, and they love football so much. I love listening to these guys talk about it. Jared Clark is good at this. Like, he is a championship-winning Florida high school head coach. He knows his film, and that guy gets turned on by the footage. I love Jared Clark breaking down the film. Anyways, thanks to everybody that's over there. How about Notre Dame Fighting Irish, brought to you by SI every single day of your life? Read an article about Notre Dame. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Can you tell I'm feeling better? I'm starting to get goofy again. That's how you can tell I'm feeling better. I'm getting goofy. Jay Carr, John, I ate Zesta crackers in my chili the other day. Thought of you, Jay Carr. I'm going to tell you guys right now, you know what makes a good meal? You're going to laugh at this. You know what makes for a good meal? A cold glass of water and a whole rack of Zesta crackers. You don't need nothing on them. Don't get fancy. You don't need to be fancy. Take a whole rack. You know what I'm talking about? The white rack, the whole rack of those crackers, a cold glass of water, and you just eat it and drink it. It'll fill you up, boy. I'm telling you what, that water will get in them saltines, expand in your stomach or something. It'll fill you up, man. Prepare yourself for jail. Like, I mean, bread and water, baby. Like, I'm telling you, I've been eating that for a meal for 30 years of my life. Just a rack of saltines. A rack of saltines. You don't need no cheese on there. You don't need a little salami on there. Just eat the crackers. It's good for you, man. It'll fill you up. You can't have anything go wrong. That's the other thing. You're going somewhere for business. You got some big meeting. You got a hot date. You're afraid something's going to happen out the backside. You eat them saltines, you're good to go. Nothing can go wrong with saltines. There's no grease. There's no fried. You're not cooking nothing. Saltines are as safe as it gets for the stomach lining, folks. I'm telling you. I would have done good in the Civil War, like or whatever, when they're giving out rations. Oh my God, my palate is horrible. My palate is so horrible. Give me this though, Adam Dowling. We went out to the Lighthouse Friday night for my birthday with Adam Dowling and his wife, and I ate normal. I had a good steak and potatoes and a Miller Lite. It's the most American meal, man. I ate a normal meal. I didn't even have them burn the steak until it was pitch black either. Medium. I could eat normal. Give me a break, Adam. See, I could eat normal. Yeah, Adam's saying you had oysters at the Lighthouse. Yeah, right. Very, very funny. A medium steak is like as normal as I get. Give me a break, okay? Give me a damn break, people. Look at this super chats. 80s guy, you said you couldn't get it to go through. Looks like it went through here. I'm glad there's no issues with the system. $10 holler from the 80s guy. It was nice to see the offense show up along with the defense last week. With the schedule they have, they should play like this every game. 80s guy, thanks for the donation. I'm glad you got it to go through. I never want anybody to donate and then I don't get it and their money's gone and then they don't know where it went. That's very uncomfortable for me. I'm glad I got this. It is one of the biggest questions I have about this week's game is, for I think maybe the first time this year, Notre Dame matched their offensive output through the air and the ground. I believe Riley Leonard himself threw for 229, and we ran it for 229. That is the kind of balanced offensive attack Notre Dame fans have been begging for. That is the kind of balanced attack you kind of want to keep defenses honest and off balance and not coming downhill at you or whatever. The big question I have is, can Notre Dame maintain that this week? Or was that exclusively because of how terrible the team we were playing is at defense? I went over it all last week leading into the game. 122nd ranked defensive output from Stanford. You should be able to throw it on them because they are literally almost one of the worst pass defense teams in the whole country. So what I want to find out this week is the only reason that passing attack looked more like a real world team for a minute, was that only because of how bad they are, or is Notre Dame incrementally getting a little bit better here? And that's what I want to see. If you're able to throw the ball and run the ball this week, it really increases your chances of not only winning this contest, but the remaining handful after that as well. So that is one of the number one things I'm looking for is, was that a fluke just because the Cardinal are so bad at pass defense, anybody could throw on them? Or is Notre Dame getting a little bit better? Maybe the answer is a little bit of both, and I'm open to that as well. $5 holler. V1 rotate. I'm not seeing a lot of coverage or talk about this Georgia Tech game from the ND fan base. Means we're probably going to lose. People are overlooking it. Notre Dame cannot afford to overlook any games. Tech's ND. You really can't afford to overlook any game. As we've all mentioned, and a bunch of people put in the chat, Andrew Gilmore referenced it as well. Notre Dame is in a 6-week battle for, I think, their playoff lives. And it is just, with the attrition and the injuries and everything, it's uncomfortable. But every game has this pressure Notre Dame put on themselves by dropping the game to Northern. You got to win out. Nobody feels bad for you. That's the thing, you guys. No one cares. No one feels bad for Notre Dame. Everybody's got guys in their program injured that they wish could contribute or whatever. No one feels bad that Notre Dame has 86 guys with their legs chopped off in the ER. No one cares. No one cares. And no one is here saying, oh, Freeman, it's okay to lose because you got a bunch of injuries. Use that as an excuse. No one's doing that. You're in a very uncomfortable position. You put it on yourself by losing in Northern. Now you got to grind out a bunch of wins in some tricky game situations. Tex ND, hey, John, I'm officially in North Carolina and unpacking. Go Irish. Well, there you go. Now we're talking. Now we're talking. Get down there in the opposing territory. Let me see. All right, callers, I need to get to you, but I have a couple chats I want to go over and a note or two about what we're talking about. Andrew Gilmore, Happy's brother. By the way, I can't wait for Happy Gilmore 2 to come out. I know sequels are usually disappointing. I know Chubbs has passed away, but Happy Gilmore is just one of those movies from my childhood that will never get old. I will always find it funny and entertaining and love it in my own way. And I can't wait for Happy Gilmore 2, and I'm not afraid to admit it, okay? I'm not afraid to admit it. I can't wait. The fan base seems complacent lately. I think it's ND's garbage schedule. Look at how much more exciting the Big Ten and SEC schedules are. Georgia and Texas on Saturday. That's a heavyweight matchup. Andrew, I feel something, and I can't identify what it is. I can't identify what it is exactly. But I feel like I feel this. There's something that just feels a little bit off with the fan base. Like people are hesitant to buy in. There's not, you know what else there isn't this year? On Twitter, leading into a bunch of our games, there isn't a huge contingent of Notre Dame fans running their mouth, talking crap to the other team. We're going to take you down. Can't wait for the game. You're going to regret that tweet. Save this tweet for after the game. We're going to expose hot takes exposed. We're going to clown you guys. No. Notre Dame fans don't feel like they're in a position to run their mouth. There's not even like crap talking back and forth before the game because Notre Dame, it doesn't feel like Notre Dame people have confidence in their team that if you open your mouth, they're going to back it up for you. I'm just saying. The whole vibe is messed up, and I blame NIU. I'm sorry, man. I blame NIU. And let's see. Frabble edits, because NIU doesn't change the fact we beat 2 top 25 teams. That NIU game was a fluke. Frabble. Oh, we're going to have to discuss this. I see you waiting on the line. We're going to have to discuss this. I think we disagree on this. I feel like the energy was let out of the Notre Dame fan balloon after Northern. After that, like after A&M, everybody's thinking top 5 in the country, undefeated playoff contender, let's go. After Northern, I felt the air get let out of the Notre Dame fan balloon. And that's literally the sound our team made in the stadium that day too. A big old, okay? I felt all the air coming out of the whole energy of all this after Northern. And how can you kind of say it's a how can you say it's a fluke when we have a little bit of a history under Marcus Freeman of doing this at home in these environments? For it to be a fluke, I would contend that there would have to be no evidence. For it to be a fluke, I would have to say you that means there's no track record of this, but there is a track record of this. There is a track record of this. And here, you guys are making some fair points, but here's the other problem. The other problem is, to me, you could call it a fluke if you want. But for me, in this season, once you show me you are capable of playing that bad, it's in my head and it's never going away for the rest of the year. And I am prepared for you to lay another egg at any time because you showed that you could play that bad against anyone and lose at home. I'm worried all the time you're going to lay another egg because you proved to me you have it in you. So I felt all the energy come out of the balloon after Northern, and that's just what I feel in this fan base. And I think that is hanging over everybody, scared to buy in, scared to chirp, scared to get, We're going to beat you down. There's just a hesitancy to buy in. Then you add in, we have 80 guys on the injured list. You have 80 guys on the injured list that can contribute, and it's enough to drive you crazy. And then you want to say, yeah, Dr. John, there are flukes lurking every Saturday. That's a good way to put it. And then I don't know, man. You have all these injuries, and it's just like next man up, next man up. When did the injuries just get to be so much at so many important positions and great players? You can't overcome it, and you drop one of these games. I'm asking, where is the tipping point in the Notre Dame program? Where is the tipping point in the Notre Dame program where you have so many injuries to key contributors on the offensive line, what would have been the offensive line, on the defensive line and the rush edge, and what you have going on with Morrison? Like, when is it too much to where you lose another game? And no one wants to use it as an excuse, but it would be a reason. I don't know. It's a rough thing. Jay Lehman, I'm glad you got to Notre Dame, and I'm glad you got to hang out with some of the always Irish people. It warmed my heart to see you hanging out with Craig and some of the nice people in my circle. I'm sorry I missed you, Jay, but it warmed my heart to see you hanging out with a lot of people in our circle, man. Good people find good people. You're good people. And it was a beautiful thing. Okay, let me blow my nose, and we'll get to a couple of calls here. And we'll see what you guys think. Let's see. $10 holler from the V1 Rotate. Explain how Kelly had average rosters that got them winning 10, 11, 12 games a year. Freeman has a better roster right now than Kelly ever had, and he loses to Mac schools. How's that even possible? Clearly, something was amiss. My Patreon partner and former captain at Notre Dame, Mike Goolsby, when I ask him how this happens, he blames coaching. And what he says is, John, the coaches set the tone for these weeks. And if the players sense that the coaches are pulling off the gas in any way, that sets the tone for the week. So if you take a couple light days off, you're setting the tone for a week. We don't need to be physical this week. You're going to win no matter what. Louisville last year, when they went to Louisville, and the plan was we're going to rotate a bunch of offensive linemen against Louisville, and going into the practice week leading into Louisville last year on the road, the plan was we're going to rotate a bunch of these linemen in and whatever and get a lot of people work. You were setting the tone then that all of our starters don't even need to play the whole time, and we can afford to rotate guys and get practice work in and still beat Louisville. Those are examples of what I mean when Goolsby says this is a coaching thing, that you're setting up the week of how big and important and how zoned in, how reeled in and focused everybody needs to be. If you're taking days off for whatever after the first week of the year, you're setting a bad precedent. If you're saying we're going to be able to rotate a million guys in against Louisville, you're setting the tone that you expect to beat them at their place, and your guard is down. That's what he's on. So I don't know. It's tough. All right, let me blow my schnoz, and I'll be right back, and we'll take some calls and see what's up. Here's what's on the agenda. I want to know what you guys think of Deuce's replacement. RKG from fancy Greenwich, Connecticut. Ooh, fancy. I want to know if you think this guy's an RKG, or if you think if Dabo Swinney wants him, that's good enough for Notre Dame. We should be lucky to have this guy. He has some athletic traits that he might surprise people. I want to know what you make of Deuce's replacement here. Morrison out. I want to know what you think of that. And you're getting dangerously thin back there, bro. When Christian Gray's like one of your veteran leaders and he's in his second year, you know you have problems. Carson Hobbs, Leonard Moore, come on down. We need you to be good as kids right out of high school. Basically, we need you to be good. And so we need that. And so I want to know the Morrison thing. I want to know what you think of the Deuce replacement. I want to know what you think of Georgia Tech and this tricky game we got coming here. Is the quarterback, Adam's been monitoring this. Is our quarterback going to play? Even if he does play, is he banged up? What is the deal here? What is the deal here? I want to know what you guys think. Also, I want to know, does anybody have a strong opinion on the offensive lineman that they flipped from, I believe, Iowa, and you flipped that guy? He's from Canada, going to school in Connecticut. Canada, get serious. Let me blow my schnoz. I'll be right back. Hey, you know what else is good, you guys? You should try this for dinner sometime. I'm going to show you what else is good. You ever go to, like, I don't know what your grocery store is, Jewel, Kroger, whatever those ones they got down there in Florida, everywhere. I can't picture it. It's green. I think they got in every corner. All you get, go get a thing of that French bread. They make like a loaf of the bread or whatever, like the freshly cooked bread. And it's like a big baguette, if you will. You just buy one of those and eat it. You just buy one of those and eat it. And if you want to get Publix, that's it. And if you want to get fancy with it, you could put a little butter on that thing. Put a little butter on that thing. Put a little butter on that thing. Hawk 2 on that thing. You just go buy the loaf of bread and you just eat it. You just eat it. It's bread. It fills you up. It's beautiful. It's all you need, man. And if you're feeling frisky, you feeling fancy, you need a little taste in your life, you put a little butter on that thing. But you could just eat the bread, man. It fills you up. Anyways, dude, I need a cooking show. It's hilarious. I want a cooking show where it's just the basic crap. I'm not eating the entire bag. Yeah, well, I'm just telling you, you could just eat it. It's just bread. It's just bread. $10 holler from the Frabble Edits. BK beat inferior teams with less talent. Did we forget USF, Tulsa, Cincinnati? Freeman's winning big games and having us closer than ever, beating a elite team like OSU than BK ever was. It's really, really frustrating. If we had BK, we'd have gotten blown out by Texas A&M and beat Northern Illinois. We'd be 5-1, probably rank lower than we are. I'd rather beat A&M over NIU. That's what I was going to say. Frabble, I'm kind of with you on that. John, are you losing your marbles? Yes, Tom. The answer is yes. Notre Dame football will do that to you. Yes, I am. And I'm high on cold medicine, I think. And it's messing with me. You're right about this. You have inverse problems between Marcus Freeman. Spit on that thing with Marcus Freeman. I love this stupid show. I love this stupid show, man. I love it. Oh, the dumbest things are the most entertaining to me on this show every week. It is amazing. The smallest, stupidest little thing makes me laugh. I love it. Can I dip the baguette in some soup, please? If you want to get fancy, then I guess so. Geez, how many? Gosh. You have inverse problems between Kelly and Freeman. Freeman seems to get the guys ready to play better for the biggest games and then not the lower level games. And then with Kelly, he ended up with that long winning streak at home and in a position where even if it was ugly, you would beat a lot of those bad teams, but then we would get blown out and not look interested to play in the bigger games. You can't even get it all. Why can't we get it all? It's enough to make you lose your mind. We got inverse problems. Why can't I get it all? Are Notre Dame fans not entitled to be able to win the big games and the lower level games? Son of a buck. It's enough to drive you nuts. Could you imagine if John was sipping from a styrofoam cup of lean? I'd be leaning, all right. Dr. John, talk some sanity into your boy here. I'm losing my marbles, Doc.
Well, I'm with somebody else. I've lost them long ago.
Well, then that explains why that explains why you ended up in this ecosystem. Then I guess you find each other when you have that gene defect. You find each other. I'm just feeling a little bit. I'm feeling a little bit loopy, Dr. John. And there's a lot going on in Notre Dame land this week, and I'm not sure what to make of it all. We're in a weird place, Doc.
It is. Before we go any further, a belated happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Look, it's off to a great start. Yeah, look at me at 40. Yeah. It's really going great. Look at what I do at 40 years old. Well, just imagine what 50 is going to be like if I'm like this at 40. This is going to be a rough journey, Doc, but thank you.
Well, you think you're nuts. I'm 84 and I'm talking to you. What does that say?
That is a really, really fair point, especially when you got 3 girlfriends in a hot tub and 4 tea times waiting for you. You're choosing to talk to me instead. What is wrong with you?
As a matter of fact, I've got a 10 o'clock tea time today. So.
Oh, it's beautiful. Doc, all right, let's get serious, man. First off, what do you make? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Before we do, I want to take umbrage with that caller you had on Monday.
Oh boy!
And I didn't get all the way through the video you posted, but if I recall, he said something about Ara Parsegan would never do something like that, right?
Something like that.
Didn't he say that?
Probably. I'm not saying I remember it word for word.
I would have loved to have talked to him. Apparently, he doesn't remember USC in '66, 51-0. He ran up that score because he wanted the national championship.
Yeah.
But then you've got tons of games where he beat Iowa 56-6. He beat Pitt 56-7. Come on.
Yeah. And Doc, I got to tell you, I would have been a lot harsher reacting with him live, but he does call often. And I've gotten a feel for his calls and his kind of where he's coming through in his mind over the years. He is a regular caller, and I've gotten a feel for him. He is not a troll random caller. I'm going to dump this in here just to mess with everything. And like he's a legitimate caller who puts a lot of thought into Notre Dame stuff. He is not like punking us. That guy calls often, and he means it. That's the thing. He is not trying to stir the pot. He means it, and it just threw me off, man. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with him, but I agree. He's a legitimate caller. He's a Notre Dame fan. But, you got to let these kids play. Not only for them, but for your team. I mean, if you got a call on them in a tough situation, they've got to be able to execute stuff. So let them try to execute stuff. I mean, come on, give me a break. It's football.
Yeah, I just didn't expect that call with all the stuff going on in Notre Dame land. I didn't expect it. So it is what it is. People wanted
I didn't expect you to be harsh with him for sure. I did not expect you to be harsh. So.
I just kind of wanted to hear him out. I wanted to hear him out. It was obvious it was really bothering him. So I wanted to hear him out, give him his time. That's what the phone lines are for. Everybody can agree or disagree, whatever. It is what it is. Doc, can we move forward and talk about what we have going on here? First, I want to know, what do you make of the quarterback here? You go get a guy from that Dabo wanted as the replacement for Deuce. I think it's a tough spot for any kid to be in to replace a guy like Deuce in a recruiting class. If anybody is not rated as higher than Deuce, a lot of people are going to look at that as a failure. And so he's in a rough spot to begin with this project. Do you have any thoughts on this guy?
Where was Deuce ranked? I forgot.
I mean, it depends where you look, but he was considered one of the top dual threat prospects, and the athletic traits are unmatched. I think this guy, I saw 14, I think, for a dual threat guy on Rivals was the highest. But the other argument is, if Dabo wanted him, he's got a pretty good track record with these quarterbacks. So a lot of people are saying if Dabo wanted him, it's good enough for me, and that's a good steal.
Yeah. I agree. And I did see the film of him, but I mean, the film is always going to be the best plays he's had. So
It's true.
So anyway, yeah, I don't know. You deal with reality, and the reality is, at the moment, Deuce is going to Auburn, and we've got this kid. So, I just can't look at it as a failure because you don't know what is motivating any of these kids. You don't know the bottom line. So,
yeah,
you may be just up against a tough nut. I mean, I think that, somebody said, well, if they can get Notre Dame trying to recruit them, that ups their
values
ratings with somebody else.
Yeah, there's a lot of games being played now, but I do understand that this guy got injured, and his rise and ascension kind of had to slow down because he had a severe injury and had to recover from that. And I understand that's a part of this discussion too. It's just a tricky spot to be in because if anybody isn't ranked higher than Deuce or equal to Deuce, there's going to be some negativity there, and it's just going to be looked at as like, a failure or an RKG you're getting to fill in, whatever. And then so we'll see what we get there, but I think it's a pretty nifty job by the staff to make the best of a rough situation and fill out that spot.
So what bothers me more than that is Morrison.
I was going to
ask. Sorry for the kid, but
it's rough.
Losing a guy like that,
it's rough.
To me, he's a proven commodity, and Deuce isn't.
Yeah, so, that's true.
Okay. You don't know what this kid's going to turn into, but you know what Morrison is, and losing him is, man, that is a tough break.
Doc, what do you do when all these injuries pile up? The offensive line's been a mash unit all year. Even before the year started, they were in a bad spot. So you have that. And then that defensive line, you're down to like your third and fourth ends here at certain spots. And then you got the Morrison thing. Like, at what point do these injuries pile up on you where, like, you just drop a game because you have so much inexperience or depth out there and it catches up to you? Like, it's a lot to ask to run the table. It's definitely a lot to ask to run the table when you have backups and freshmen and young guys all over, but that's the position Notre Dame's in. It's a lot to ask, but I need it.
And that's why you let the kids play at the end of a game, even though you're up by 4 touchdowns.
Yeah. It's and that's an argument. Yeah, to come back.
Yeah.
And the other thing, Doc, you always talk about, like, we need to get our backups in at the end of the game or whatever. But they often just hand the ball off and run out the clock or whatever. Like, and that's not real reps to me, to just hand off the ball with no pressure or anything. You need to see the offense run in regular game flow a little bit for those reps to be as valuable as I want them. So I think about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway. Oh, I don't know what else I've got for you.
Get to the golf course. Go have an Arnold Palmer and go let it rip, brother.
Yeah, it's probably the last good day out here in Montana to play. So we got to force them going out. It's been a lucrative week for me right now.
Nice.
I play with the senior group on Tuesdays. I call it geezer golf. So, and we had a good team yesterday, won a little money, and then I won a little bit in the extra 9 holes. So,
Doc, you know what people are asking for? The crowd wants. Multiple people have asked for this. They want me and you and Pat to play golf together and some of it to be recorded for content. Multiple people have requested that happens in the future. So we need to all think about that.
I would love to do it, but boy, you're going to have to give me a lot of strokes.
Pat's the master at that. Pat will figure out some mathematical equation for every time you pull up there with Pat. He's got a different game. One week we're playing Chicago. The next week we're playing Wolf. He's got something for everything. And I say, Pat, I'm just going to hit the ball and you tell me if we're doing good or not. I'm not keeping up with all these numbers. I let Pat do the math.
He's my kind of guy.
Yep, I let Pat do the math, and he's got that cigar going, and he's figuring out who owes everybody money and everything. So I let Pat do the hard stuff.
Okay, Georgia Tech. I was going to say they scare me, but every freaking weekend.
Yeah, I know. There's a reason to be scared every single week. And we got to see if this quarterback's healthy or not. That's the other thing. He's banged up, and that's a big key to their offense. But, man, they do pretty good on offense. They average, I think it's close to 450 yards a game. Like, you got to – I don't know. We're going to see what we're going to get in the Dome down in Atlanta.
Have they been smoked by anybody?
They lost a couple games. I don't think they've gotten smoked, but they have dropped a couple games.
Big, though.
Yeah, kind of an interesting. Yeah. They're an interesting team. And the spread's gone up in Notre Dame's favor. So Adam Dowling was talking to me about this, asking, does Vegas know that quarterback's not playing and he's banged up, and that's why maybe the spread's increased in Notre Dame's favor. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Well, I've heard that in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, they only serve wine and cheese. Is that right?
You know what? I think that's that stadium where everything's cheap, Doc. I think that is the stadium where it's famous for like everything's like $2 or $3 and it's really affordable, unless I'm misremembering. So maybe I could go get a plain hot dog with ketchup only there for cheap. I don't know. We'll see.
No. You never put ketchup on a hot dog.
I only put ketchup on a hot dog. What are you talking about?
No,
yeah. No. I don't do all that yellow weird stuff. Ketchup only like a 7-year-old.
Mustard's not weird.
Yeah, it's all yellow though, and that's weird. It reminds me of blowing your nose on a hot dog. And you could argue that the ketchup reminds you of blood though. So I guess I'm a weird guy. I don't do all that. All the people that put a salad on a hot dog and then say it's Chicago style. Well, you could kiss my backside. I put ketchup on it and call it Chicago style. All right?
Oh, I put ketchup on it. I call it garbage. Oh my God.
Yeah. Geez, I didn't know ketchup offended you that much. Sauerkraut. I don't even know what that is. What is a sauerkraut? What is a sauerkraut? I don't even know what that means or what that is. Anyways, Doc, thanks for calling. Get to the golf course, brother.
Yeah, I will. I'll check in with you on Friday.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye.
Oh, man, that was entertaining. We got some energy on the calls today. Fravel, what's going on? 815. Everybody on the line, I'm going to get to you. What's going on, Fravel?
Not much, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay, man. There is a weird vibe in Notre Dame land, and I am not able to identify it, but it is just throwing me off. There's not this normal juice there should be. Like, there's just not a lot of excitement. There's not a lot of like confidence in these guys. There's something that's bugging me. It's a little bit off, man. Do you feel that, or is that just me?
I think there's some of it. But for me personally, I mean, I'm happy that we just got to see 49-7, and keeping Stanford and putting them in the dirt. We didn't have another 2022 performance against the Cardinal.
Yeah.
I think Riley has improved week by week, which I like to see. I still don't think the offense is where it needs to be passing the ball, but I think at least we're seeing some progression. I think Riley's starting to feel more comfortable with the receivers. I do think a lot of us forgot that he missed the entirety of spring camp. He didn't really get to do much in fall camp.
Well, wait. I don't think people forgot, but people are not open to using that as a reason the offense isn't good enough, right? Like, I think people remember it, but but not enough to be like, well, then it's going to take half the year for the passing offense to come together. Like, I remember it, but I also don't have the patience to wait half a year to see a passing offense. I admit that.
Yeah. But I think that as him getting that bye week and those 2 weeks to prepare before the Louisville game, I think we saw it against Louisville. He had a little bit more, but by far Saturday was the best performance he's had in a Notre Dame uniform through the air.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that, dude. It just feels 229 feels like 429 when it's us doing it, right? Like just even 229 through the air feels like 429 when you're just not used to it. And then like the guys that scored passing touchdowns, I'm not used to seeing them in the end zone. Like it was just a nice little treat.
Yeah, what was it? I think was it like 11 different guys caught a pass, including an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
So that was.
I like seeing Raritan get in the end zone there too on that little crossing route. I like seeing him get in the end zone. Yeah, it's so I don't know, man. And that's a big question I have this week is, did you only throw the ball around a little more because Stanford's literally one of the worst statistical pass defenses in the entire country? Or are you literally getting a little bit better as we go? And maybe it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of at, because I know I do my annual Twitter Spaces post game and everything. We were talking, and I said, while it's an improvement, I'm still not going to sit up here and act like Leonard is some great passer because of one game. He's not where I want him to be, because one, we got to keep in mind Stanford's DBs are absolutely terrible. One of the worst passing defenses in the nation. You're playing another one this weekend, who's I think they've ranked like 88th in pass defense in the nation. So we're not going to find out too much whether Riley has improved or just bad defense. But I mean, NIU had a terrible secondary, and he looked god awful. So I think it's an improvement for him to look good against a bad secondary.
Yeah. What do you make of the spread increasing in Notre Dame's favor throughout this week? Do you take that as a sign Vegas knows they don't think that quarterback's playing or he's really banged up? What else would make that spread kind of jump a few points in Notre Dame's favor unless Vegas knows something?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I also think Vegas is starting to think that maybe the kind of what I had said, that the NIU game is more and more of an anomaly, maybe not fluke, so to speak, but an anomaly, in that this is the same Notre Dame team that beat A&M on the road by 10, beat a very good Louisville team that's a fringe top 25 team. So I think that has part to do it, but I also think the injury is a huge factor as well.
Yeah, it's man, I'm struggling with these injuries. It's just, I wonder where's the tipping point to where, next man up and you could get by in some spots without a lot of statistical drop off with these backups and the young guys. I just wonder if there's a tipping point where that all catches up to you. Or maybe it's like a Navy situation where defensively you don't have guys that are experienced enough to see what they do and know how to defend it, and they're out of place. Like, I just wonder if it ever burns you at some point and catches up to you. If it doesn't, and Notre Dame runs the table the back half of the schedule, that is an unbelievable credit to the depth and skill in this program if you're able to do it. Statistically, the most likely outcome off the 10,000 times run season in a computer-generated world says 10-2 is the most likely outcome at 40%. And so that means you drop one more game somewhere here, and I think that drops you right out of the playoff, right out of that mix. So it's going to be really interesting.
Oh yeah, you can't lose to NIU and go 10-2 and get in the playoff. And as a fan, I don't think you deserve that anyway. But what I will say is that I think it was Josh Pate who said this on his show. I think it was last night, and he was talking about Notre Dame team, in his rankings. And he said, kind of like, he made a good point. He's like, Notre Dame so far, they've had these kind of nicks and, these injuries that have been severe, but they haven't really been to anyone that maybe would kind of, be worth a couple points in a game until, BMO just goes down. But for me, I think we're used to reacting to former Notre Dame teams when we have an injury to this magnitude, like Jordan Love went down against Clemson and our defense was completely god-awful after that. I think with Mike Mickens and, this staff that we have, we're starting to see that Notre Dame is deeper than they ever have been, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I believe in Leonard more. That kid, as a true freshman, is insane. I love what I saw from him against Louisville. He really didn't get beat many times in that game besides the two balls that were just insane catches.
Yeah.
And, you got Christian Gray over there who, was highly touted. My thing is I think you're getting to that point now where you're one more injury. You're one more injury away from where it probably adds another loss, maybe 2 on that schedule.
Yeah, it's just tough, man. And then there's the whole debate of like, why are you getting that amount of injuries? Is it just bad luck, or is there something more to what you're doing or not doing? And that's a discussion I don't think any of us have the answer to. It's just really, really unfortunate. It's just going to be, it's rough. But you're in 6 unique 1-week battles for your playoff life, and that's how everybody must approach it. I don't need pretty points. I just need you to keep winning and keep winning and keep winning again. I can't let you go here without asking, what do you make of Notre Dame's new quarterback recruit? I knew exactly what I was going to get. A lot of people like looking at the plus side, and a lot of people saying it's an RKG, whatever. And it's a nothing burger. What do you think the realities of this player are?
So, to me, I had never heard of this kid. I know the Notre Dame offered him back a week before he committed to Clemson, and I believe back then he might have been a top 100 guy. I know he was a top 100 guy at one point before his injury junior year. I've watched his film, kind of dove into it. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Riley Leonard, but he's a better passer, but not nearly as good of a runner. If that kind of makes sense. I do think that the whole stuff that kind of came out that, this was their number one option from the beginning, and I never really bought that. I think that's more of a saved face.
Yeah, I saw those reports too, and they were like, "Oh, actually, this was our main guy before Deuce came on the scene." I read all that too.
I think that's just more of a PR thing to not make it to the fan. I don't think the fans really buy it that much, but I think he's a good player. I don't think that he's the type of kid that Clemson would take if he wasn't good. I just don't think he's as close to Deuce as some of the options that we might have had.
Yeah, it's an interesting position for the kid himself to be in. The way I look at it is, it's kind of unfortunate because he's not Deuce with that skill set. So a lot of people are like down on him to begin with without even really giving him a chance. That's one angle of it. The other angle of it is he could fly right under the radar and he could get into Notre Dame young. And if he develops, he could really surprise people and pop up and be. And so I think he's in a unique position to fly under the radar here. Maybe it doesn't amount to much, but maybe it does. And he can do it without a lot of the pressure, because a lot of people are writing him off right away because he doesn't have Deuce's skill set. And that's where our eye level has been this entire time. And people are underestimating him. So maybe he could fly under the radar and surprise some people. I'm open to that.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to ask you this question because I was asked this in one of my spaces the other day when we got this news, and they were asking me, they're like, what message does this send to the current quarterback room now? And I think that this taking a guy like this who's not a top 10 quarterback, he's not, at least right now, he's not considered the elite of this year's class. I think it sends the message that this is clearly CJ Carr's job to lose next year. And I think this is more of a kid that you kind of bring in as like a Stephen Jelly, who is kind of a depth guy, a placeholder, until Noah Grubbs gets there. That's where I'm kind of at. Do you kind of see the same kind of thing?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I don't know. What do you mean what message it sends? Like, the message is Notre Dame's in a bad spot and they needed to do something. Like, the message is pretty clear. Your number one plan fell through and you're scrambling to find a good backup plan. Like, that's the message. And here's the other thing. It's all so frustrating. I'm just kind of glad it's all over. Do you feel me on that? Yeah. I'm just kind of glad it's all over. Like, we went through all the Deuce BS and all the frustration with that. Now I like the fact that this is all wrapped up now and we're done with it. And I can like move on with this whole quarterback in that year type thing. Oh, you're a recruiting guy with your behind the scenes rumors and all this. What's the rumors? Derek Meadows is back in play for Notre Dame. I've had a few people reach out to me with that in the last day. Have you heard any of that too?
So the staff was trying to get him on campus for Louisville or Stanford. Both of those attempts did not, they failed. That didn't work. I know that I think Wilfong put it out a couple of days ago that they were still in talks with him. As of right now, I doubt that Notre Dame has a shot, especially with, I think, Jalen Cooper. He's gonna pop here in the next couple of days. I don't think Meadows. I think there's interest from Notre Dame in him, but I don't think he visits. Now, if he visits, we can have a different story. But they've tried getting him on 2 different games and didn't work out. The way LSU's been looking this year, especially on offense, I don't see it.
Yeah, it's going to be that's interesting to see that pop back up. Anything else today, man? Thanks for jumping in on a Wednesday morning. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. I guess. I mean, how do you feel so far about the their playoff chances going forward? I mean, you look good against Stanford. We got Georgia Tech.
I mean, you can't lose.
Are you worried?
You can't lose.
Are you worried a little bit about Georgia Tech?
Yeah, I'm worried about everything, man. I'm worried. Even if this team was healthy, I'd be worried, and they're not healthy. So yeah, I'm worried. You know me. I'm always worried. If I'm not worried, I'm dead. What do you mean am I worried? I'm always worried. Even if we were healthy, I'd be worried, and we're not healthy. So I'm double worried, and you have no leeway, man. You got to win. I don't need pretty points. You just need to win. So, and you know what, though? This is going to maybe surprise some people. I actually feel pretty good going into this dome. I have no hesitation of like, oh my God, what if it's loud in the Georgia dome? Well, this ain't no Little John concert in Atlanta. I'm telling you, I'm not afraid of this dome. Let's go. We play better. We play better on the road anyways. This ain't no Ludacris concert in the A. That place ain't going to be rocking. Go in there and beat them.
Yeah, I'll say this: after A&M, I'm not really afraid of any opposing venue.
Yeah. Okay. What?
I will say though one more thing before I hop off here. The guy, the
cough medicine, dude. The cough medicine has got to me, dude. People think I'm on lean. People think I'm drinking lean for breakfast. It's just cough syrup.
I do want to say I listened to the clip you posted. I think it was yesterday about the guy that called in and was mad about us running up the score.
Yeah,
I completely disagree. I know you did as well, but I'm surprised the guy didn't mention 66-7 against Purdue. Because that was more running up the score than it was against Stanford.
Yeah, I guess it was just the way we threw to the end zone that one time under 2 minutes. He was mad, dude. That dude, he was mad. He loves himself some Notre Dame, but he is very specific about his tastes.
And I don't know about you, John. I was doing a live space during the game, and me and my buddy were sitting there. I was like, man, I'm not satisfied. I want 50. My buddy goes, no, I want 60. That's where I'm at. So.
Dude, it's I don't know. You can't make everybody happy. I'm just glad we are arguing after a win. Hey man, thanks for the call. This was entertaining. I really do appreciate it. Give me a call again whenever you get a chance. Thanks, buddy.
Yep, no problem, man. Take care, John.
Yep, thanks for the donations too. I really do appreciate it. Oh, we're having a lively show. I'm just glad I feel a little better. All right, I got to blow my schnoz. Give me a break. Kent's here. He's back. Kent's back in the mix. It's good to see you, buddy. I understand if you're really frustrated about your outcome, Kent, but the reality is, I don't know how much it really cost you. Like, you're going to be in really good playoff position, have a chance to maybe play that team again and beat them in the round robin when you get back into the championship for the Big Ten. Like, I understand the frustration, Kent, but at the same time, you're in a pretty good position. It's very, very differently than when we lost to you in a heartbreaker last year and it's a 4-team playoff and you feel like you're like out of the mix. It's just a very different feeling. Easy for me to say because it's not my team that lost, but like, that's my opinion. You didn't really lose that much in good playoff position. You guys remember that song from when I was like 20 3-6 Mafia, zipping on some scissor. Remember that? From it was the late 90s, early 2000s. It's in my head. Tom, what's going on? If you're on old, stay on old. We'll get to you. Tom, what's going on? Good morning on a Wednesday.
Hey, John. I want to bring up a couple of things and get right down to business, basically, and put you at ease a little bit.
Oh, so I need it.
The last couple of days I spent watching Georgia Tech. I watched them play Syracuse, and I watched them play Louisville. Now, they pose some interesting scenarios for Notre Dame. They do a lot of motion. They do a lot of jet sweeps, a lot of slip screens, and a lot of counters inside. They're going to test our cornerbacks. They have to play assignment football. Now, if that quarterback doesn't play, then all bets are off. So I think that's why the spread went a little wonky. It wasn't as that, it opened up at 7.5 and it went to 11. I think a lot of Notre Dame money came in after the fact because of the Stanford score. But look, the other thing that I watched, I went back starting Sunday night. I went back and I watched every Notre Dame game. And as painful as it was, especially to watch the offense, you can see the progression of Riley Leonard. The touchdown passes that he threw and some of the passes that he completed on Saturday, his throwing motion, his confidence, there was zip on the ball that wasn't there the first 4 games, actually. And so I got to believe, and I'm not making excuses for him, it's just what I see on the tape is that they were not a complete team, and his health may have hindered him in the first couple of games, in the first 4 games. So I think we're beyond that. I think he's got confidence, and he even said his communications with Denbrock, they're on the same page now. That means the world, that relationship between the quarterback and the OC is big. So
and Tom,
I look for him.
That was my favorite part of the big Stanford win was, and why I enjoyed it even more than the Purdue blowout was that it was fairly well-rounded. The defense tightened up and didn't give up an inch after that initial, rough drive. And then you ran the ball and passed the ball equally well. And that is a new feature for Notre Dame. And my question is, how much of that is just because Stanford's really, really bad pass defense team, and how much of it is Notre Dame's progressing and it's starting to click a little bit, and Riley Leonard's getting more comfortable, and the reconfigured O-line starting to maybe come together a little bit? That's where I'm at this week is how much of this is.
Well, I'll answer the question.
I love it.
And it's pretty simple. So and it's a good question. I think it's both. But when you saw him make those 3 real bad passes against Miami of Ohio, where he absolutely missed. I mean, and those were short passes, out passes. He cleaned that up. He's a different quarterback now. I'm telling you. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to believe that, but I see it re-watching all the film from the games, and I actually think the receivers are running better routes. Now, was it the fact that Stanford's secondary was horseshit? Yes, that had a lot to do with it. But you know what? That's what good teams do. You have to throttle your opponents. You've got to exploit them, and you have to execute. And he did that. 16 of 22 for 229, 3 touchdown passes, and another one rushing. I don't know how much better you're going to get.
Yeah. And
you know what I mean?
Tom, I'm with you. I'm with you. It's a total win, but I spent all week talking about their pass efficiency defense is 122nd out of 130 some teams. They're really, really bad. You should be able to throw it around. I want to believe that's some of it, but also some of it is our progression. And here's the other thing, Tom. How do you measure confidence? Don't you think that whole offensive output and those receivers and Riley Leonard, they all have a little pep in their step, feeling better about themselves if they were able to throw the ball like a normal team? How do you measure the value of gaining confidence in you and your teammates, and that when you run a route and get open as a receiver, you might be rewarded by it, right? Like I just feel like, how do you measure what that little boost gives you going into this game in Atlanta? Like, I gotta feel like that offense is feeling a little better about themselves.
They are, and I think they have another immeasurable going for them, and that's you can't measure a kid's heart. I think they've got some cohesiveness now, and they've got a lot of heart. They're going to get tested Saturday. Don't believe that spread. I told you last week, and I said Notre Dame would put up 49 to 51 points and cover that spread. I'm not confident that they're going to cover the 11 on Saturday.
Yeah,
and I think it's going to be a much tougher ball game because of they've got a hell of a running back, and they're going to have to play assignment football. Now, if Hayes King is out, okay, then we won't know until game time, because it seems like they're going to play that. They're going to play it close to the vest. Regardless, I want Hayes King to play because I want to see the defense punch them in the mouth. And I think the other things that I saw where our inside linebackers are playing a lot better. So go back to how they got gashed during NIU, and they were missing assignments.
Yeah.
That's not happening anymore.
Yeah,
that's all been cleaned up.
And you know what else? You know what else that's very important for, Tom? And I know the Notre Dame historian you'll agree with me on this. That's also very, very important for what's coming next after a tech.
Absolutely.
And you're going to need to be assignment sound and gap sound, and I know your responsibilities and be where you need to be. If you want to beat both Navy and Army, you're going to have to do that. So that's a very important part of the equation for what's coming on the back end of the schedule.
And I understand that trepidation about the outlook for the rest of the season because of the injury bug. This injury bug is unprecedented. I've never seen it this bad.
Yeah,
never.
Rough.
2018 was not real good, but this is pretty ugly. So now, to actually kind of pick that up on the other side, I haven't seen the depth of talent on a Notre Dame team in many years, and dare I say, going back to the late 80s and early 90s. They have not had this much they're longer, they're taller, they're quicker, they're athletes. They haven't had that in a long time. So if it does get to that point, and we're there already, that these young kids have to step up and play, then so be it. So then if we lose out, if we lose a game or two, and we don't make the playoff, and that's the result, then I would say look out, because next year will be a different ball game.
Yeah,
especially with a retooled offensive line, and
Tom, that's a silver lining.
A brand new quarterback.
That is a silver lining that I've thought about is all of these guys are being forced to play out of necessity. I keep going back to it. You had 4 true freshmen playing meaningful snaps with the game on the line against Louisville and the season hanging in the balance, and they held their own.
That's right.
And they held their own. There could be some growing pains now and frustrations now and mistakes made now, but those are going to be your leaders on this team in next year and the next couple years. They're getting some really good reps.
And they're not going to forget that. I mean, that Ja'Cory Brooks, the receiver for Louisville, he's going to play on Sundays. That's a good ball player. So they got to see it. And that was a pretty good quarterback they faced.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think they're going to face that good of a receiver or quarterback this Saturday. But again, the next 3 or 4 ball games, they're going to see something new every Saturday. And that's the other thing. They've got to be pliable. So a couple other things that I heard last week. When Goolsby told you that he blamed the NIU loss and the general malaise on the team coming out flat was on coaching, and it was because Marcus Freeman made a couple. I don't know if you caught this last week, but he said he's kind of addressed that, and he's not going to let that happen again. I.e., the walk through, all that crap.
Pull off the gas.
He knows that. He knows that. And he knows the youth of this team. So they need to be coached up, and he's got to stay on them to make sure that these kids are focused, that they're looking at just the next game. They're not reading the internet and watching prognosticators on TV talking about. He's got to keep them absolutely focused, and I think he will. We'll see what kind of coaching job he does the rest of the season. I've already seen, and I'm one of his biggest critics, and I've never hidden that. But the other part of it is, we wouldn't be here with these kids, these underclassmen, were it not for Freeman and his good recruiting.
Yeah, and it does. This has been stated before too. It does feel like getting into those younger classes, especially like the sophomore class, some of those guys, they have an attitude. Those are going to be some of the leaders in this program. Like there is a lot.
I agree.
Yeah, there's a different little like mentality. I feel like with some of those younger kids have a little bit of an edge to them that we feel like Notre Dame could use more of. And I'm excited about that as well with some of the younger guys on this team. Tom, I can't let you go without asking what you think about the quarterback. Blake Hebert, you get him from Clemson.
Okay,
What do you think of this? Are you like, hey, if Dabo wants him and with his history, I'm interested. He has an injury that held back his ascension up the recruiting ranks. What do you make of this guy?
Well, okay, so I immediately, once the word broke that he slipped, I called a friend of mine who's a high school coach in that area. He works at an opposing school called the Hun School. He plays in that big private league, which used to be a feeder to the Ivy League and the Patriot League, but now it's become a hotbed of high school football talent.
Interesting.
There's a lot of D1 prospects. So I called this coach. He's a friend of mine who works at the Hun School. He said, this kid is the real deal. He's got it. He's an all-around athlete. He could have started on the basketball team, and he was a shortstop and a pitcher or center fielder in baseball, but he wanted to exclusively focus on football once that got to it. So he's been to all the Nike Elite 11 camps, and he said, just go on and watch his highlights. So I went on 3. He's got a pep in his step. This is a very good pickup. Now, I know the previous caller said, well, he's not a top 10. Well, look around the country right now at the starting quarterbacks and some of the better quarterbacks that weren't anywhere near top 10 quarterbacks coming out of high school. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I think this is, and grabbing that lineman from Iowa, that kid has got it. He's got great feet. He's got a nasty streak to him as an offensive guard, and I know a lot about that because after I got switched from fullback to guard, I know what playing offensive guard is all about, and he's got it. He's got great lateral movement, and he's got a nasty streak, and I think that was a good pickup. I mean, if Kirk Ferentz wants him at Iowa, I'm okay with it. He's had some pretty good lines stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good, you know what? That is a really, really good point, though. You get a quarterback that Dabo wanted, and he has good experience with developing those and having an eye for those. And then you do this with the offensive line, and then you have the Iowa lineage there. So there's a little bit of support in the kind of the assessment and the talent there. Tom, anything else? Really, really well-rounded, good call today, buddy. I love the energy and all the information.
Yeah, the other thing that I noticed was Denbrock's offense. So he put a couple of different wrinkles in versus Stanford. So what he did was he said, okay, we're going to show the country a little bit more flexibility from this offense. He operated out of a 21 personnel, a 2-back set, to have Jeremiah Love and Jardanian Price in the backfield. We've been clamoring for that all year. It's happened. There were 4 different series where they did that. They ran out of pistol. They ran play action. 2 of the touchdown passes came off of play action out of the RPO. So he showed the country, okay, we're not as vanilla as we were the first 5 games.
Good.
And he hasn't even begun to open up the playbook. He showed Stanford just enough and executed on the game plan, but there were still slip screens and bubble screens that they haven't run, except for the one touchdown against the previous. Who did he have that against? Miami of Ohio. What was his name? Jay Love, when he took the screen pass in, the long screen pass in. So he threw 2 screen passes to the tight end, and he threw another screen that picked up a big first down when it was needed against Stanford. So those wrinkles are in, and you're going to see more on Saturday. That's all I got.
Well, I appreciate it, Tom. I'm telling you, man, good calls. Love the energy, love the information. You're building a little reputation of yourself on this show, my friend. Stay in touch.
Absolutely. You take care. Take care, everybody. Go Irish, and we'll beat the Yellow Jackets.
There you go. Have a good one. Man, I love how much that guy loves Notre Dame. I just love how much that guy loves Notre Dame. 618, let's make it great. What's going on?
Hey, going, John.
Hey, what's going on, buddy? A lot going on in Notre Dame land. I want to know, what do you think of the Georgia Tech matchup? What do you think of the new quarterback we got? What's the deal?
Look, man, I watched film on that quarterback, man. That quarterback is okay, man. Plus, he was like, before his junior year, he was like a top 70 kid, a top 100 kid, and then he broke his ankle his junior year.
Yep.
He's looking good, man. I'm not worried, man. Deuce Knight, that I'm happy that drama is completely over, man. If we didn't get a quarterback, I would have been like, man, wondering like what in the world is going on. But and I don't think he's a bridge kid. I think he's a kid that's gonna try to come in and compete for the spot. I don't think he's a bridge kid to Grubbs at all.
Yeah, man, it's interesting. You got some people are just looking at it going, man, what a drop off from Deuce Knight, and this is just like filler or whatever. And then you got other people are going, hey, Dabo wanted him, and he's got a good physical skill set and a lot of upside. This could turn into something. I don't know what the truth is.
Man, let me tell you, the people that's saying that, man, oh, man, this is not good, it's because they're star watching, man. Stars mean absolutely nothing. We don't know if Deuce would have came in here and flopped, or if Deuce going to go to Auburn and flop. We don't even know if Deuce going to go to Auburn. So, with Ole Miss still hanging around the picture, we don't know where Deuce is going to go. We don't know what Deuce was going to be.
God, aren't you, dude? I'm with you though. I'm glad it's all over, and I'm glad the whole thing's over. That he left, and we're done with it, and we replaced him, and we can move on, because it got really, really frustrating week to week.
Man, all the people that's complaining about this quarterback, about this kid was this kid was a priority in Notre Dame before he committed to Clemson. It just so happened we lost Deuce, and they got back in the bed with him.
Yeah.
They were talking to him while Deuce was playing us for fools. They was already talking to this kid.
Yeah, it's man, it'll be interesting to see. I think he's got an opportunity to fly under the radar and develop, and without a lot of fanfare and attention, just because of the timing of all this. Maybe that could be an advantage for the young man.
Before I go to the Georgia Tech game, man, let me talk about the Derek Meadows situation. That guy don't know absolutely nothing what he's talking about. The Derek Meadows situation came up about a week or two ago when the kid, it came up around the same time, right before the kid visit, right before Jalen Cooper visit. And I know Jalen them pretty well, man. I've been, my son played youth football with Jalen. So, down in San Antonio. So that's when the Derek Meadows stuff started back popping up. I don't believe a word that Will Phone said. They're trying to get him in for the Florida State game. If they can get him in for the Florida State game, anything can happen. It's game on. I don't think LSU ain't showing me this great offense. They throwing for 1,000 yards, but they ain't scoring no points. They not showing a whole lot on offense either. I think that, man, the second half of the season, you're going to see, man. We're going to see. I think Dan Brock is showing. He's going to show, like, hey, man, this is what it's all about. Do you think you're seeing the Notre Dame offense evolve a little bit? You think you're going to see this passing game continue to ascend, or do you think it's going to kind of revert a little bit? We only got a good bump because of how bad Stanford is. I think it's going to be ascend, man. I think Jim Brock didn't show a whole lot. What I tell you earlier in the season, John, whenever Jim Brock is running his offense, this offense is rolling. Whenever we get back to what Marcus Freeman was going to do, that's when the offense regress.
Interesting. So it's like, hey, let Denbrock do his thing and get the hell out of the way, Marcus, right?
Yeah, go get far away from the offense as you can, and let Denbrock do what he been doing for the last 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really going to be an interesting way route.
Yeah, can you tell the difference between the offense when Denbrock is running it and then Denbrock started doing what Marcus Freeman wanted him to do?
Yeah, but how much do we know that Freeman was involved in tamping down some of what they wanted to do on offense? Like, you seem pretty certain of that. You seem pretty certain of that. Like, so you think he's going over there going, we're doing trestle ball, old school from 2000, run the damn ball. Like, I don't want to mess with any of this.
Did you see any of that in LSU last year?
Yeah, well, okay, but it's different. But it's different. But wait, but it's a lot different when you have Jaden Daniels as your quarterback, and the whole world's different then, right?
Man,
that changes things.
No, it's not. Look, I think he can get the ball down the field. He's proven that he can throw the ball down the field.
Man,
Leonard has proven that he can throw the ball down the field. It's when you didn't see not one time that last year at LSU that they run the ball 8-man in the box.
Man, this is it's an interesting theory, and whatever it is, I hope they let him keep opening this offense up, and I hope we see more of it this week. Are you worried about these injuries, man? Do you just feel like eventually you're going to have so many of them you just can't overcome it? You drop another game you shouldn't. Right. What's the reality? We're just getting beat to hell, man. We're getting beat up.
Leonard Moore against Louisville was the best cornerback on the field. I mean, I know Morrison was there, but Leonard Moore looked the best. Morrison had one of his worst games of his career against Louisville. And he had a bad game against, who did they play? Miami of Ohio. Leonard Moore looked the best. And this year, Christian Gray looked better than Morrison.
So do you believe, wait, are you saying that? Do you believe that maybe a lot of people are saying this, that Morrison's been dinged up and been out there playing, but he has not been 100%. He's been held back by some nagging injuries. Like, a lot of people are on that now.
Yeah, and I think that he started to see, before the season, we started to see some of his draft stock started slipping. And then I think he wanted to go and prove that, hey, man, I'm still the same player. You know, and trying to rise that draft stock back up, but, you know, and then this wound up happening. You know, he pressured himself and then wound up having to have hip surgery.
Yeah.
So I think this year, Christian Gray has been the best corner we had, which long as we still got
that's good for the future. That's good for the future. If that's the guy you feel the best about and he's that young, that's good for the future then. And then if you get, and Carson Hobbs, you're going to have to play too now with Mickey out and now you're thin back there. All these young guys are going to get a chance to shine and we're going to see if they can hold up.
We just got to pray that there's no more injuries in that defensive backfield. And then we still got Jordan Clark and he can play some corner. We'll be okay, man. I think we covered the spread against Georgia Tech.
Oh, man. Yeah, and a lot of it depends on if that quarterback plays or not, and I want to see that.
Let's be honest. All you guys are worried about Georgia Tech. Who have they beat? They beat Florida State. Florida State flopped this year.
That's true. Yeah, no, you present a good point. That was their big win, but it got less valuable as the season went on. Every week the season went on, that win meant less, right? Like, that's the frustrating thing for them.
They damn near lost a bad North Carolina team.
Yeah, it's okay. It's going to be a little different. You're in this dome. There's going to be a different feel to it. It's Notre Dame, not North Carolina. So I'm certain you're going to get a different effort.
Than Georgia Tech fans.
Man, what do you think that split's going to be? Somebody asked that. How many Notre Dame people you think are going to be in that? What is the percentage you think?
It's going to be more than half.
Why I'm not sure it's going to be more than half. You really think so?
Yes, man. Who really follow Georgia Tech?
I don't know, but at least it's in the state where the school is.
It's in the same
Like,
city,
I don't
and
know.
still-
I don't know.
I don't know nobody in Atlanta that follow Georgia Tech.
Yeah. It's a bunch of engineers somewhere, a bunch of mechanical engineers and software engineers or something, a bunch of smart people.
But
That's
they ain't
who.
going to no football game.
Yeah. They're in a laboratory making something.
Yeah, man. Hey, man, listen to me. We're gonna be all right. More than half the state, if not half the state, if not more than half the state, is gonna be Notre Dame.
Oh, I like this, man. I like it. And it's going to be really interesting. Anything else? Thanks for touching base. I think I tried to go to you Monday, but I couldn't connect with you or something happened.
That's the reason why, even though ESPN don't give Notre Dame no credit, they always ragging on Notre Dame. They want Notre Dame to make the playoffs. They want Notre Dame to make a deep run because Notre Dame trapped.
Yeah. Well, let's see if
We're going to be okay, man. I got us winning 31-20.
Oh, that's a beautiful score. I like that, man. Hey, thanks for the call. Thanks for your energy as always. Give me a call back either Friday or on the post game, okay?
All right, man.
Have a good one. I don't know what's going on today, but a lot of energy, you guys. I don't know if it's the cough medicine or what. I love it. 918, let's make it great. What's going on?
Hey, John, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing very well. A lot of news in Notre Dame land this week, and we're kind of sorting through it. I'm willing to go wherever you want to start, my friend.
Hey, okay, this is Mike in Oklahoma. Just wanted to say sorry I didn't get to come to your guys' tailgate against Miami. I was feeling a little under the weather, so me and the missus, we just stayed close to Eddy Street and enjoyed those row of condos back there and some of their tailgating that they had. Just because we couldn't walk around, I just wasn't feeling it. So apologize for that.
No, that's all good. And you know what? There's going to be more opportunities for that. We're going to do at least we do a blue and gold one if that interests people. I know the weather's always a problem in April in South Bend, and then we'll do another one next year. And then the other thing we're thinking about is this thing is building and it has a lot of momentum. We may build this into a Always Irish Sports Illustrated thing, fly the flag for the Sports Illustrated website and really blow this up and be able to kind of bring in some, kind of really ramp this thing up and put some muscle behind it. So there's good things to come with that. There will be other opportunities, but thank you.
Yeah. Hey, a couple things here. Some of the hot topics here, why I wanted to call, and, a couple of things on Riley Leonard, just get that out of the way real quick. I got blown up on Twitter over the last couple of weeks over a position that I took on whether or not this guy was, the quarterback that would get us into a national championship game or help us win the playoffs, or even if he's the right quarterback for the season. And I don't know if it was with Ryan or with 5 Foot Nothing in their podcast or Joe Separate. I don't know who it was, and I kind of put a point out there to them that I think where the fan base needs to look into, that there's two sides to this. Riley Leonard is a good quarterback. Okay, nobody's saying he's not a good quarterback. I think where everybody's getting confused with his abilities is, and I strongly disagree with this last caller that just got off the line here, and his ability to throw the downfield ball. That is where the frustration sets in with a lot of people, is his ability to push the ball downfield. I mean, just going to last week's game, I hate Jason Garrett. I'm not a fan of Dan Hicks. And you listen to them, and they both were on the same page throughout the game about Riley not posing any threat to push the ball downfield. CBS's show a couple weeks ago even alluded to it, but this is the problem that ails Notre Dame, is their inability to push the ball downfield. Can he complete a 10, 15, 20-yard pass? Yes. Can he throw something deep to a Chris Mitchell or to a Bo Collins or to a wide-open Jaden Greathouse? I'm not even going to get into him making the wrong reads or missing the read when Greathouse was open that one pass. But just throwing an ineffective ball downfield is what everybody's talking about, and that's where the disagreement comes. It's not about whether or not he's a good quarterback. I think he's a great game manager. I think he's doing what Notre Dame is allowing him to do. without them saying what we want to say, and what we will say is the fact that he just can't throw a ball deep. And that's it. So you have that, and, you mix in with his running game. That's why they do what they do. That's why we probably don't see them pushing the ball downfield like a lot of us want. We all think in our mind, you run Chris Mitchell up the sideline or Greathouse or Bo Collins, run him deep, 25, 30 yards downfield, throw a couple of deep passes. What's that do? That changes your run game. So I think that hopefully that cleared some things up with everybody, and everybody kind of cools their heels on one another, because there was some stiff bantering going on back and forth over the last couple of weeks about Riley Leonard and if it's Marcus Freeman's fault or if it's Denbrock's fault or whatever. But anyway, one thing that I wanted to kind of clear.
Do you feel like it's a little bit complicated when you're looking at like any frustrations with the pass game? Sometimes I have trouble trying to figure out game to game, series to series, play to play. If the passing game isn't where I want it to be, is it Riley Leonard and him doing something not great? Is it the O-line and their continued struggles and with the injury and the youth and them trying to patchwork it together? The wide receiver room is still nowhere near where I want it to be at all. And then you have Denbrock in here as a new play caller trying to figure out what Notre Dame can run this year. I struggle trying to figure out what within all of those pieces isn't good enough that's holding back what I want to see on offense. I have struggled parsing out blame sometimes between all those parties. Is that fair?
Well, yeah, it is. Absolutely. You're spot on. And for me, it kind of aligns my thought process with this topic of Riley Leonard and the offense of Notre Dame aligns with Notre Dame getting back to a national championship game and winning a national championship game. And I've simplified it over the years. I've had to. I'm 60 years old. I've had my Widowmaker's been blocked a couple years ago, so I've had a stint. So I got to watch what I do late in my age. And I go back to 2012, and somebody had asked me when we got to the national championship game what my feeling was and everything. And I said, look, I'm a Notre Dame fan. I've gone through so many ups and downs, it's unbelievable. And my thought and my philosophy from that day when we beat USC to end that season and go into the national championship game against Alabama, that night after the USC game, all the relief of all the years of not being in the national championship game were gone. So from that moment forward, I've been happy. I've been happy as a Notre Dame fan that we finally got back. Would I have liked to have won? Yes. Would I have liked to have gone back from that point till today? Absolutely. Would I have liked to win one? Yes. But I'm a Notre Dame fan. I see what the reality is. I cool my heels. The NIU loss, after we lose that game, it takes me about 2 hours to get over it. And I wake up and the week moves forward and I go on to the next game. And that's kind of the way I am with Riley Leonard. I don't overthink it anymore. All I have to do is boil it down to one thing. I watch that guy try to throw a ball 35 yards downfield. He can't do it. So there. Now, what the offensive coordinator and what Marcus Freeman does with it from there forward, I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts about that. I know one thing. In my opinion, my firm opinion is Riley Leonard cannot throw a pass 35, 40 yards downfield to make the offensive coordinator and Marcus Freeman confident enough that we'll have a explosive downfield passing game. So everything else, I just take it for what it is.
Yeah,
so,
man, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What do you feel about Georgia Tech this week? What are your thoughts about Notre Dame's journey down to the Dome in Atlanta?
Well, if I could, I want to step on something. I've copied your YouTube thing on this gentleman that called on Monday or Sunday after the show and vented about the fact that we potentially either ran the score up or whatever the case is. And I put on there basically that why didn't he just come out and say exactly what's on his mind, and that is he's just not a Marcus Freeman fan. He hates Marcus Freeman, doesn't like him, whatever the case may be. And as I kept listening to his phone call and then there was a Twitter fire, that started up either Monday or yesterday on that very topic about did Notre Dame, were they in the wrong? Was Marcus Freeman, what was the issue? Well, did they run the score up or whatever? And somebody so eloquently put it, we did it at Purdue. Why didn't they bring that up? Here's it's kind of a two-part answer that I have for that gentleman that called. First off, on the running up thing, this is football, okay? And you know about the wine and cheese crowd and people standing up. This is football. This is a different sport. It's unlike any other sport that we have in this country, in this world. And I don't care what anybody says. I think it's the greatest sport out there because of everything that it brings on so many levels, from high school, college, all the way to the NFL. Your opponent is going to do everything he can to beat you in the trenches and on the scoreboard. And at no time can you let up. You cannot do it. You cannot relax. It's such a high-intensity football game. You've got 11 guys on the field at any time that are looking to hit somebody. That's what the game is all about. It's about hitting each other and the results thereafter. And if Marcus Freeman were to take his foot off the gas at any time, you risk getting injured. You risk so much, okay? And the other side of that is what if he lets up? What if he only scores what he scores in the first half and then pulls the dogs off in the second half? And Stanford somehow creeps back into the football game. Now you've got your team out of rhythm, which is another aspect about it. You cannot stop your rhythm. You cannot stop your flow. And I know he wanted to bring up Jimmy Johnson and what he did to Faust. I mean, I get that. But as somebody said, and we've all said for 30 years, and I agree with Jimmy Johnson, it's not Jimmy Johnson's responsibility for Notre Dame to score points or for Notre Dame to figure out how to stop Miami. It's not his responsibility. It's Notre Dame's responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you agree with that? I mean, I don't know why he went sideways, but here's the other side of this is what Marcus Freeman has done with this roster this year, and the Coach of the Year award just got announced, or the candidate just got announced. I think it was today or last night. This is something that I think needs to be considered with what Marcus Freeman has done all year. You so eloquently put it about the injuries and everything he's had to go through. You know, you got an inconsistent quarterback. You've got injuries up and down to start the season. The defensive line. Now you've got Ben Morrison out. It's like who's next? What injury is going to pop up this Saturday or 2 or 3, God forbid?
Yeah.
What Marcus Freeman has gone through this season and the results that he's got. I mean, I say give him the award now. But let me say this. If he wins out, I think we beat Georgia Tech. I think we beat Navy. I think Army's going to be a tough game. If we don't have any more injuries and we bring this team that walked off the field against Stanford, if we bring that team into the Coliseum at the end of the season, he's got 1 loss on his record. Hands down, and I'm not an award guy. I could care less about O-line U, tight end U, Heisman trophies. I don't care about any of that stuff. But you got to give this award to Marcus Freeman for what he's gone through. You've got. I can't see any other team out there that has done more with less than what this guy has.
It's interesting.
Hands down.
It's going to be interesting. If you get to 11-1 and you run it at 11-1, then I'm interested in hearing that. But man, it just seems like an arduous journey to get there as beat up as we are. Man, that's tough. But it would be really impressive to run the table from week 2 on as beat up as we are. I agree with that.
Absolutely.
But again, though, but I'll also say you should also never be in the position to lose to Northern Illinois to need to go on some miracle run. Like, there's 2 different things here. It would be great if you did it.
Yeah.
But you should never be in the position to need to do it. Those are 2 different things. And I got to put that in the water, that line in the water. You shouldn't
Absolutely.
need,
I don't disagree with that.
you shouldn't need to do this miracle recovery after losing to Northern Illinois. I don't want to just start the discussion then.
Well, no. It's not about whether or not, quote unquote, needing to win so much as the fact is that what my point is, notwithstanding the NIU loss, that's bad enough. What I'm referring to is the fact that, it's like somebody came into his office to start the season and says, "Hey, Marcus, here's what's going to happen. We're going to pull a majority of your offensive line. We're going to pull a couple of your defenders. A couple weeks into it, you're going to be unsettled at the quarterback position. Oh, by the way, we're going to pull Ben Morrison off your roster. So there you go. This is what you're going to roll with. Okay, now go win some football games." And that's what I'm referring to. I know he had to recover from a loss. Alabama's had to recover from it. It happens in college football. Just when you think your team is going to go undefeated, you lose a team like Vanderbilt or we lose a team like NIU. I get that. I'm just referring strictly to what he's had to deal with, what he's had to manage from that game forward. I mean, most coaches would have folded, which is the other point I want to talk to you about that caller. And this is what I would ask anybody. And I know a lot of people are gonna reveal some names and stuff, on your chat and wherever else. And I get that. If it isn't Marcus Freeman, who? You guys think Urban Meyer is going to come here or would have come here over the last few years? Urban Meyer would have never came here. This is why Marcus Freeman is a special coach. And I said this after the Texas A&M game, and I stick to it. There's not a lot of coaches that would put up with what you got to at Notre Dame. There's not a lot of coaches that could have managed what Marcus Freeman has had to manage this year. There's a lot of coaches that would have just flat out just folded after the NIU game and would have lost a game or two up to this point. They would have lost the team. They would have lost the locker room. They would have lost the fan base. There's a lot of coaches out there that would have done that. And I'll argue with anybody, give me a name today that could come in to Notre Dame right now and do what Marcus Freeman has done or better. Could they equate it? Probably. Could they do better?
Here's the difference.
I'll listen
Here's the difference. Here's the difference. Could is different than would. That's where I always want to bring this discussion. If you're going to say could, there is a list of guys that could get better results at Notre Dame, probably, that have experience and high-level cachet and can recruit just by walking in a building. Would is a totally different discussion, because that means you got to find one of those guys willing to go to Notre Dame and accept a lot of the recruiting restrictions and some of the frustrations that every Notre Dame coach has to go through. Could and would are two very different things.
And the name that comes to mind that everybody's thrown around over the last few years, arguably the top name, was Urban Meyer. Well, Urban Meyer was on record of saying one of the stumbling blocks that kept him coming from Notre Dame is Notre Dame would let him have 2 JUCO transfers.
Yep.
And so that's my point. There's a guy like Urban Meyer. I would love to have had his abilities here with some of the teams that we've had. I would have loved to have had Bob Stoops. John Gruden's name was kicked around. Yes, there's a lot of names a lot of us would love to see walking that sideline. Hell, if Nick Saban somehow said, hey, I'd like to talk to Notre Dame and see about the availability, who wouldn't want to listen to what Nick Saban has to say? But again, what is Notre Dame going to afford these guys to do what they want to do? And that's why Urban Meyer didn't come. And that's why when it comes to coaching, with what you have, with what you've got to work with, you got to hand it to Marcus Freeman for what he's had to put up with the last 3 years, what he's certainly going through this year, and the results he's getting. I'm a Marcus Freeman guy, no question about it. I know some people aren't, but I just ask you, step back and just look at the big picture. Who else out there is going to come in and do this? Who else could come in here and do this? Because there's restrictions that are going to be put on them, that they're going to change their mind about coming here. They're going to be reluctant. So you got to think about all that stuff. Pat Connor, he knows about the admin stuff, and I'm sure he could eloquently, scribe out there to everybody the restrictions these guys have to deal with, all the pomp and circumstance. This is before they even open up the playbook. So, and Marcus Freeman's managing that rather handedly. He's doing a phenomenal job. He's doing a B+ to an A- job in my book, with everything he's got to go through. Certainly, what he's had to go through this year to get the result that he's got.
Interesting. Fair. I like your perspective on this, and I like that you are able to kind of rationalize and throw out, your line of thinking with it as well. Really, really productive call today, man. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate you. Give me a call again whenever you get a chance.
Absolutely, John. Have a great week.
Have a good one, buddy. Man, I love how much these people love Notre Dame. 773, you're talking to me. What's going on? Trying to get people in that have not called in a while. That's what I try and do to balance things out. 773, what's up?
Hey, what's up, John? What's going on?
Oh, not much. Just a busy week in Notre Dame land here. There's recruiting news. You got a big football game in Atlanta here. You're dealing with injuries up and down the roster. What's on your mind?
Hey, I just want to talk about Marcus Freeman for a minute and the score thing. Through my experience, real quick, my experience, I played obviously in college and the pros. Here's how it goes with the score thing. They determine what they do is they'll put in their backups, and the reason they put in the backups is because they just want to lower the intensity. If you keep the starters out there, one, yes, there's the injury part, but they do want to take. They want to, you know what I mean? They want to slow the game down. They don't want to get big chunks and run the score up.
Yeah.
But the number one reason why these coaches decide to run up the score or don't run up the score, to my experience, is the relationship they have with the coach on the other sideline.
Interesting.
Kirby Smart, Sarkisian, if they were playing Nick Saban and they were up by 10 in the fourth quarter, they'd start running dive plays because they respect him so much that they wouldn't want to, no, we're not going to take it up to 14. Keep it at 10 and run a 23 dive. I don't care if we get a first down. It's all about the relationships these guys have. These guys go to coaching clinics together. They have to walk into these clinics and face each other. And if you run up a score 58-7, that guy's going to approach you in the clinic.
Yeah.
It happened. Guys have gotten in arguments. Guys had to be separated because of that stuff. And that determines more what's going to happen with the score than like, well, get your backups up there so they get reps. Because those reps, when the backups get in there, are kind of meaningless. Like people think, oh, that's great. They're going to get reps for one game off season where the score is like that, or 2 games where the score is like that. Do you think that that's going to help them if they get in the playoffs? Like, well, at least our backups are ready for the playoffs now. We got them in on those 2 games, the second game and the 5th game to get reps.
Yeah.
So that really doesn't have any. They want to lower the intensity and prevent injuries because they don't want to run up the score. Hey, do you have any questions about that? Because I got one more point. I'll let you know.
Yeah, no, that makes that makes perfect sense. But it just threw me off. I wasn't expecting getting that call on the post game show. I had a million things in my mind in Notre Dame land that wasn't on the bingo card. What else you got, man?
Yeah, I just brought that up because of that one caller.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a big topic about running up. The Riley Leonard thing. Here's the thing with Riley Leonard. You've had some great calls today. I thought, boy, this is one of the best shows as far as people calling in and pointing out the different, for guys that didn't play college or in the NFL. I thought, boy, these guys, almost like they all did play in college, the points that they're bringing up, especially about Riley Leonard. Here's the thing with Riley Leonard. You're not going to be able to get a feel of how good or how improved Riley Leonard is because of the competition that Notre Dame plays. You can't play the 120th ranked secondary and say, well, he's getting a lot better. Because what's going to happen is and then you turn him loose like, boy, he looked good against Stanford. Let's turn him loose to throw the ball downfield. Then Brock knows, no matter how Riley Leonard plays, if he's playing against Stanford, Air Force, he's going to have a good game against Air Force. He's going to have a good game against Navy. And everyone's going to be like, turn him loose. Turn him loose. We want 20 passes over 40 yards. John Brock knows why do that? Because if we get the playoffs, if I do that in the playoffs, we're going to have 3 picks and 2 pick sixes going back the other way when we play the 4th ranked secondary.
Yeah.
And he's taking that into account when he's making these play calls. He's making play calls that he knows he's going to call for every single game. He knows he's not going to have Riley Leonard throwing the ball 40 yards downfield in the playoffs if they have to play Georgia. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So why are we going to do it against Stanford when the score is 56-3 or whatever it is? Doesn't make any sense. He knows what he can or can't do. I'm not going to have him go out there and do the things that I know when we play USC. I'm never going to let him do that in a million years. So why do it against Stanford? That's why he's doing it. And then one more point with the line. Here's how the line works. They don't care. This kid down at Georgia Tech, the quarterback, everyone's saying, well, the line's adjusting because of this kid or a kid's not going to play. When I was in the NFL, they'd have people come in and talk to you because the NFL was so afraid of gambling that they'd have a guy from Vegas go to every team and talk to him, and he'd come in and say, why you guys shouldn't gamble. And, they were scared of that more than drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy would come in and he explained to us how gambling works. And here's how gambling works. The line's not moving because of that kid, the quarterback at Georgia Tech. They don't, as of today, Las Vegas doesn't know if he's going to play or not play, but yet the line is moving, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And did it jump from 7 to 11?
Yep.
Well, they don't know what he's going to do, but yet the line moves. What happens is the line moves. They set the line. The most accurate line most times is the first day it comes out. That's when they analyze the teams to set the line. That's where you look at and say, that's why if you look at the NFL games, they're always like 3 points, 2 points, 4 points. They're always real, real close because NFL teams are close. The 14th place team in the division is only a 3-point dog. Only getting 3 points to the first place team. That's how close they are. College is a lot tougher to put a line on a game because we'll get Northern Illinois. Notre Dame was getting 28. So they're not looking at the Georgia Tech game and say, wow, you know what? That kid's not going to play. They're taking into account the Stanford game more and that, you know what, looks like Notre Dame's getting better. So let's set the line here. Once the line is set, John, then the money takes over. So if all the money's coming in on Notre Dame, that line will move up because all Las Vegas, according to this guy, now I'm not a gambler, according to this guy that came in and talked to us, what they do is let the money dictate what they're going to do with the line. Whether that kid comes and plays or doesn't play, if the money keeps pouring in on Notre Dame and that kid announces he's going to play Thursday, that line is still going to stay there. Because if people say, well, no, the line goes down. That's because the money is now going to go down because that kid's going to play. Not because Las Vegas is saying, oh, that kid's going to play. Let's drop the line. Now people are like, whoa, I'm not going to bet Notre Dame 11 if this kid just announced that he's going to start.
Right.
So now the money starts flowing down. And then everybody out there thinks, well, the line's dropping now because that kid's going to play. No, the money is dropping from the fans because that kid's going to play, not from Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see how this is going to turn out. Notre Dame's in another must-win game. I don't care what the line is. Go in there and fight and scratch and claw and find another victory, damn it.
Yeah, at one point, just hang in there with Marcus. Just let him get through these injuries. Let's see how he does. The one caller, again, great caller about the coaches. I'd like to have Saban. I'd like to have this. The reason why, and I don't want to break anybody's heart there, and I could be wrong, but the reason why Notre Dame probably won't get a coach like that again is because of how Lou Holtz was treated in the end. Lou Holtz started at Ohio State. He was on the staff when Saban was there. Those guys knew that at the end it got kind of rocky for Lou Holtz when he left to go coach at South Carolina because he wasn't, after the 88 national championship, there were some rough dudes on that team. I mean, it's some of the things that happened. One was my cousin. Some of the things that happened to some of the guys on that team, because, I'm talking about the guys from Chicago.
Yeah.
How he brought in some guys that were, but that's what you have to do to win. I mean, any team that I've been on where we've had a good defense.
Yep.
One recruiter told me, when I go down a street and there's no street lights, I want that linebacker. Meaning, if he comes from a rough neighborhood.
Yep.
And people come out to the car and meet you because they think it's a cop car because it's that's the guy I want. And those are the guys that are going to win for you. They're going to bring home a national championship. If you get the guy that's the super nice guy that's polite to everybody, 9 out of 10 times you're not going to get to where you need to get to.
And that's a tough needle. That's a tough needle to thread for Notre Dame because Notre Dame's full of nice people. It's an interesting dichotomy there, and you need a little bit of an edge, man. Every winning team has a little bit of an edge, and some guys that teeter that line of like, are they sane or not? Like, you need a little of that.
Yeah, I mean, we used to say after this assistant coach told us it's about this linebacker he went and said, God, this guy comes from a rough area. I want him. Because we knew what he said when he meant that, because most people would be like, well, why? Don't you think he's going to be a problem? No, the opposite. I think he's going to lead our defense.
Yeah.
And you're right. That line that a head coach or recruiter has to walk to determine on a kid like, boy, oh boy, is this kid talented, but he has a brother that this and a brother that did this and a father that, you know what I'm saying? It's like, is this kid going to be disciplined enough to play? And I'm not talking about any race or anything like that, because the white guys that show up on these football teams come from tough backgrounds.
Yeah.
But they're tougher in a different way. You know, they lost their father. Their father might have had some problems, you know, and he took off. Whatever it is, even those guys have a chip on their shoulder. But you have to walk that line. Where do you want to go with this? Are you going for the whole thing? If you are, you have to make a deal with the devil. If you say, look, we're not going to, you know what, give us 10-2 every year and no problems, then okay, you know where you have to go with it.
Yeah.
But if you want to beat the Alabamas and the Georgias, you got to go into these places and get the guys that the Alabamas and Georgias are willing to get.
Yeah. Man, I really enjoyed this call. I enjoyed this call, man. Hey, thanks a lot. Don't be a stranger. Give me a call again soon, will you?
All right, buddy. Good luck, Notre Dame. I'll talk to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Man, that guy came out of nowhere. Hasn't called since June. Former NFLer. Really interesting. Sounds like Tom, but isn't Tom or his brother. 716, you're in the mix. What's going on?
And how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm sorry to make you wait this morning on the lines. Busy day on the call-in show here.
Okay.
I want to know what's on your mind. We got injury news. We got recruiting news. We got Georgia Tech. I want to know what's on your mind.
Well, first of all, I want to clear something up. The other day when Pat called, there was a caller that came on, and it was kind of funny because you said, must be he was at work and he had to get going. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
When he came on right after Pat. And then after that, 502 from Kentucky came on and said, me, 716, was the guy complaining about running up the score. No, I'm just the opposite. I'm the one that said, what about when Eric Parseghian won the game 51-0? What about the backups? And so I just wanted to clear that up. So 502, basically, I'm going to say, owes me an apology that I'm not 917.
Yeah, we gotta make sure we're piling on the right guy.
Yeah. So anyways, to share this with you, 917 is a New York City number.
It
now,
is.
He's calling from Florida.
Yes, you're right.
So
It
the
is.
only way that he can call from Florida is if he did what my son in the service and communications taught me. You get a cell phone. You have them take your landline or a landline and port it to the cell phone. And then that's how you get what would have been a landline ported to a cell phone, and he can be in Florida using a New York City area code. So that's the only way that would work if he is calling from Florida.
Well, wait, why can't he just have a cell phone registered from New York and then he retired and moved down to Florida or something, right?
Not with a 917 number. That's an area code assigned to New York City, which would be a landline. So
That's interesting.
In Olean here where I live, if you have a 378, a 790, whatever, those are exclusive cell phone numbers, because everybody says to me, how did you get a 716-372 number? Because it always used to be 372, 373, 375, 376. And they said, how did you get a 372? I said, my son taught me the trick on how to port my home phone number that I had for 35 years onto a cell phone. That way everybody knew me under that number rather than a brand new one.
Gotcha.
There is a way to do it. So if it's an original 917, that's a New York City area code.
Well, then, yeah, that's interesting. Interesting. So what do you make of the news? What do you make of the news? I'm getting sick. I'll be honest. I'm getting a little sick of the debate of whether we ran it up on Stanford all week. And I want to talk about more what's going on now and what we have coming this week. What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to give you a solution to that. Okay, to end this, and I think this is where all the callers are coming from, pros and cons. First of all, I happened to turn it on last night. I seen something. I thought, oh, what's he got new? And it went into you on YouTube, the little short snippet you put on about Pat. And I started looking at it, I'm thinking, like, really, if I look at it like this, it's really humorous. So it's about 11:45. I'm laughing in the pillow so hard I can't hold myself back. I don't want to wake my wife up. I looked at it like a skit from Saturday Night Live with the originals back in the 70s. And because my point is, We don't even know if this guy ever played football, played team sports. I don't have any idea whether he did or not. But the thing is, he could watch the Rudy movie and find fault that Vince Vaughn, playing O'Hara at the time, of course, we don't know. I don't know if that actually happened, but through the halfback option, right, so that Rudy could get in the game. Well, he called that running the score up, but the teammates wanted Rudy in the game. There was no other way to do it. So he'd find fault with it based on how he feels about running the score up now. So to me, I just started thinking this is pretty, he's entitled to his opinion. I there's no problem with that, but be positive about calls. You're calling for the coach's firing. That's a little out there, But anyways, so what you wanted to talk about, and the scary thing about that Rudy movie was the team that he did that on was Georgia Tech, at least in the movie. So let's hope they don't watch the movie and gain some oomph to come and beat us. But anyways, getting back, I don't really know too much about this new kid recruiting, but on the Riley Leonard front, I just looked some stats up, and I was curious to see what he actually did. In 2022, he actually passed for 2,967 yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and rushed for 699 yards and 13 touchdowns. Overall, for Duke, he had 24 touchdowns through the air, 10 interceptions for 4,450 yards, and he rushed another 229 times for 1,224 yards and 19 touchdowns. But here comes the ironic thing. You're still there, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Here's the ironic thing. When you look it up and see what his average pass yards were per attempt, this is where it gets crazy. Pass yards / attempt, 7.6 yards per attempt in 2022. When he threw for 3,000 yards, his average pass yardage attempt was 7.6 yards. Now, other teams know this. They get the stats. That's why they're loading the box. That's what I came to the conclusion after looking this up. I said, why is everybody loading the box? He did have that, breakaway throw last week. He passed for 3,000 yards. So he must have some heck of people he was throwing to that could run after catch. He had to. If he's only averaging 7.6 yards an attempt and he's passing for 2,000 yards, they had to have some guys that could run after catch.
Yeah,
that's the only way I can fit it.
Yeah. So
I expected to see something maybe 14 yards per attempt or something, but 7.6, that's under 10 yards per attempt.
Yeah.
But yet he threw for 3,000.
Man,
that's crazy. But, yeah, go ahead.
So what do you think? Is Notre Dame trending up offensively, or did they just play a really bad Stanford team? I don't have the answer to that. Maybe it's both. Maybe the answer is Notre Dame is getting incrementally better and you played a bad team. Maybe it's both.
Well, I look at it as one thing for sure, okay? The rate that a receiver runs a route never changes. It has to stay consistent because that's what the quarterback and the receiver work on. I know he runs it this fast. I know he's going to make his break here. I know this is how fast the next guy runs. They have to know that with each other, right? So the thing that was important was he was especially on the slants. Quick release, timing was there, out in front so the receiver could grab it. That's something that improved. That improved. Before he was throwing behind the receivers. So he's learning their speed now. They're consistent in running their patterns. He's consistent in where he's going to throw the ball if it's there. So that's an improvement. Going against the 120th, defensive pass team, no. You're going to have some things, but that's a good time to actually improve your timing.
Yeah, like that's the other thing, man. Like lean into that. Use that to build your confidence. Grow a little rhythm. Let the receivers know they could be involved when they get open. It's a lot of positives. I just hope it doesn't all revert this week against a more realistic team with a more competent defense. That's my thing. I just hope it doesn't go backwards.
I think it's going to depend on your offensive line. Stanford was great against the run. They were rated high against the run. And this week, we're going to have to see what kind of a defensive rush this team can put on Leonard. If they can't get through the protection, I think you're going to see a good passing game.
Yeah.
if they can get through the protection, I think they'll shift and they'll go to their running game. They'll let those guys suck them in, maybe throw a few screen passes, take advantage of the fact that they're rushing in. And speaking of that, the one thing that frustrated me in that Stanford game was, and I can't believe the coaches didn't convey it, when you watch that quarterback from Stanford run, once again, we went upfield with our rush instead of staying in the pocket where the guy can't get out. Make him pass rather than run and rush to the outside. We're coming around the backside of the pocket, which allows him to go forward. That's how we beat Southern Cal last year. Was we kept Williams in the pocket. We wouldn't let him run anywhere. You need to do that with guys that are running quarterbacks, and that's something I noticed. But I think it's going to be an interesting game this week. I think it's going to be a challenge for us, but I also think it's a challenge for Georgia Tech. Like the one caller said, hey, they beat Florida State. I was excited, wow, we're going to play Georgia Tech. We beat them. We're going to go up in the rankings. They got a good team. But then after Florida State went down the tubes, it was like, oh boy, how good is Georgia Tech?
Yeah.
But you can't let that enter your mind either. As a guy going out there as a player, you got to remember, I'm improving, they're improving, right?
Yeah.
The way it normally goes.
No, okay. Then let me ask you
anyway,
this. You're talking about that gradual offensive improvement, and I hope we continue to see that. And I want to ask you a similar through line of questions I've asked everybody. What's your fear about all these injuries? Morrison one is it's an absolute gut punch. You add it to the list. At what point does the tipping point become two more to where you're going to lose another game or two because you just can't overcome so many top line contributors? Are we near that point, or is it next man up and you believe in the young guys? What do you think?
Well, I think when the other caller called in and said he'd been watching the DBs, and he was kind of doing his own rating system, and he was talking about Morrison. We don't know when he got hurt. They never clarified that, at least that I know of. I don't know if it happened in this game. We don't know if it happened in practice. But if he'd been struggling in the last couple of games, which I noticed he just did, when he said that, I'm thinking, no, he wasn't really on top of his game. Usually he's knocking the passes down or at least having a chance to intercept them. And I'm just wondering how long he's had that injury. And if he said anything to anybody or just tried to play through it, I'm wondering. Because that's kind of a strange injury to get for a DB would be a hip. I mean, to me, I could see a lineman where their legs get tied up. I could see a running back a la Bo Jackson when he got hurt. I could see it there. But boy, it's hard for me to see that as a DB. And I'm just wondering what happened, where it happened, and how long he's had it. But that's a blow. That's a blow. So yeah, you're going to have to play more correct assignment and like the other caller said, which you're going to need to do when you play Navy next week after. So I think it's a shock, but then again, we'll see how good Freeman's recruited. We'll see if he's recruited talent that's up there.
Yeah,
we'll find that out.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's going to be. This is going to be a rush. The remaining 6 games, man. Nothing's coming easy to you. You got to win each one, and it's a challenge. I do like the youth on this team. A lot of young guys are having to step up and play big time snaps. And we're going to see what we're going to get this week. Anything on the way out, my friend? I got to get running. I got a meeting for Sports Illustrated coming up here.
Okay, I have not, John, heard anything, and that. His name's Pat there that called the 917. And you haven't said anything about it. What's the deal? He said that CJ Carr acquired an injury and it's a year-long recovery period. I have heard nothing about this, nothing on any of the sports talk shows, nothing. I mean, that would be big news considering who CJ Carr is, who his grandfather was. That'd be big news. I have heard nothing, so I don't know what the heck.
I've heard that there was an injury in practice that occurred to him, and some people are not happy about it, talking about maybe it was a cheap shot or something that happened in a practice, and they're not very happy about it. But I haven't heard a ton about it, but that's what I've heard. So I don't know.
And I think if it was something serious, listen. You know, you stand in the circle of 20 people and you make a statement. By the time it gets back to around you, it's totally changed, right? So I'm thinking somebody would talk and somebody would say something about it. Even the players, something would slip and something would get out.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going along with you.
Yeah, I think
cheap shot.
I think it's going to be okay. Yeah, I think it's going to be okay. And it was a little overblown, and there were some rumors that it was a little bit of cheap shot, and people weren't happy about it. Whatever. So I think we're going to be okay there. Yeah, I think we'll be okay.
On the way on.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me clear that up. That I am not Pat, and I'm 716. He's 917. And the other thing is, really enjoyed the guy that called in. It's called Doc. Man, I can see so many similarities with him.
Yeah, good old Dr. John, man. That's my surrogate Notre Dame grandpa, loyal Notre Dame son, and I love the man like my own, like he's my surrogate grandfather. Hey, thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate you jumping in.
Yeah. All right, and healings to you, complete healings to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Your prayers work. Thanks a lot, brother. Take care. What a nice guy. All right, here's the deal. I got to get going. I'm doing an interview with Sports Illustrated, Nick Shepkowski. You guys will probably see that soon, so I got to get ready for that. There were a bunch of callers I couldn't get to. 917 was one of them. He called in late, the last 10 minutes of the show. 917 called in. Maybe he wanted to defend his position again. I'm in a weird spot. I don't want to overdo this whole thing of him saying it was wrong that we tried to run up the score or whatever. But it's also what everybody's talking about. And people asked me to post that clip only so they could find it. But I also don't want to make 917 perpetually have to defend his football thought. Maybe he just wants to say it and live his life. But if he wants to defend it, I figured out how to bring other people on. He could debate other people. So 917, if you want one of these days, I can let you come on and then just go after it with people. I don't care, but I don't want to make him do that. I can't take the call. I have obligations. I got something scheduled I need to get to. So that's a little weird. I don't like being in between. And I don't want to make that guy defend his position more than he already has talked about it. But if he wants to do it, I'm not against it. But he called in 10 minutes ago and I got other content obligations. So that's where I'm at with that, with 917. I want to give him a chance to defend himself, but I'm sorry, the timing didn't work out today. But I also don't want to make him do that if he doesn't want to do that. I don't know. All right. Really lively calls. Really lively episode. I needed this kind of juice back into this show, you guys. It's felt a little off lately. I like this juice. Thanks for the calls. Thanks for the donations. Thanks for the chats. Thanks for all of it. I like this energy. It's starting to grow back a little bit, and we got a big game in Atlanta here. So I'm going to have something special for you guys tonight. Goolsby and Clark film breakdown. I'm going to put that out tonight. You're going to get that. First thing tomorrow morning. I think a glizzy is a hot dog, but I don't know why people called it glizzy. I don't understand that either, and it sounds weird to me, like something weird's going on. I don't know what that means or where it came from, but it makes me uncomfortable to call a hot dog a glizzy. That makes no sense to me. And I think it's something perverted or so. I don't know what that means, but I don't know what that is. I just know it's a hot dog, but I don't even want to know why someone started calling it that. It seems weird. Anyways, so we're going to do a film review tonight. So be here for that. And then, I know it's a hot dog, but why is it called a glizzy? That sounds very weird. It doesn't sound like hot dog. What does that have to do with a hot dog? I don't get it. Why would that word ever represent a hot dog? It just makes me think something weird's going on. So stay tuned for the film review coming out tonight. And then we're going to do a Sports Illustrated special tomorrow morning. And so that'll be the video tomorrow. And then we'll go live Friday. And then we get into the game. So let's do it. Let's get it done. Ronald, come on. We're ending the show now. Thanks for the chats. Thanks for the calls. Thanks for the donations. I love this show. Love this community. Love you guys. Take care. Stay tuned for the film review coming out tonight. Don't miss it.